All right, the Utah Jazz lose to the 76ers in Summer League. How did Keyonte George look? Let's talk about it. It's the Hoopsner Show. All right, guys, normally I would talk about the other team. I usually do at the beginning of all these. There was not a lot to say about the Philadelphia 76ers. I was a little interested in Terquavion Smith. He really dropped during the draft process for the Sixers, and he struggled to start the game, but actually played better as the game went on, so that was kind of interesting. 5 assists, 14 points for him, so he was one of those ones that was a little interesting. Not a lot else to say about this Sixers team because it's a lot of like players I have no idea about. They are not going to make the league. Terquavion Smith might make the team for them, and I guess maybe Jaden Springer, maybe. But anyways, I just don't know a lot about them, so I'm not going to pretend like I do. So let's talk about the Utah Jazz. So there really were two players tonight that Jazz fans were talking about and watching, and that just like game one, it was Keyonte George and Ochai Agbaji because Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh did not play tonight. So that was a bummer. I don't know if we'll see them again tomorrow because it's one-day rest, and then they go to Las Vegas Summer League. Man, I would like to see them play at some point. It would be nice to watch because I'm sure all Jazz fans, just like me, are interested to see what goes on with those two guys, and especially with Keyonte George on the floor. It's going to be fun to watch. They look Keyonte George looks great in this game. But let's talk about Ochai Agbaji first. Ochai Agbaji was going for the triple-double tonight with 10 personal fouls. So he fouled out with 10. It takes 10 fouls to foul out in Summer League. He used all 10. He had 18 points, 10 personal fouls, and he could have got the triple-double if he'd gotten 5 more rebounds, but he did not. He did have 3 blocks, though. So Ochai Agbaji was a lot of fun tonight. He struggled in the first half. The shot wasn't really falling. I kind of noticed one thing that I'm starting to notice a little bit with him is that the touch around the rim for him is not always all that great. He's not a guy that just kind of puts it in the basket all the time. So that's something to watch with him because he can for sure shoot the 3. That's one thing we know for sure. And tonight you could definitely see it. In fact, let's bring up the stats and make me smaller. So Ochai shoots 6 for 17 from the field, and I think that's where that 2-point shot comes in. He is not really shown to be a very elite 2-point shot taker. It's really like 3-and-D. For sure. That's kind of what Ochai Agbaji, and at least from what I'm seeing, is kind of turning into. He can handle the ball and he can kind of drive to the rim. So there's a little bit of what he can do. And, he makes plays. He can definitely drive to the rim and he's got insane athleticism. But a lot of it's just like straight line drives. If there's an open lane, he can take it. Otherwise, he needs to take that 3. But we are seeing that he can also pass the ball. He had 0 assists tonight, but he does move the ball within the offense. So that is one nice thing to see. One of the things you want on your team is you want players that can be versatile. And I don't think Ochai Agbaji is going to be a superstar or anything like that, but I do think that Ochai can become a very nice high-level starting role player, where he, like we said, 3-and-D wing, where he shoots threes, defends, rebounds. I mean, that's what you want from him. And then if he can just play within the offense, move the ball, drive to the basket when he has an opening and things like that, knock down his free throws, all of that type of thing, then you're pretty happy with what he does. But yeah, 18 points tonight for Ochai Agbaji, and a lot of that's from the 4 for 8 from 3. Nice to see. 2 free throws for him, 5 rebounds. He makes some insanely athletic plays. Every game you'll watch Ochai just make a play that makes you just go, holy smokes. Like in this game, he had a insane block in transition, then goes the other way, gets the ball, and knocks down the 3 on the other end. That's what you just love to see with Ochai Agbaji. He just absolutely brings highlight plays at least once a night. Really fun to see. And so really what you want from Ochai is just for him to develop into just an elite 3-and-D player that brings a little bit of versatility, movement within the offense, passing in the offense, cutting to the basket, things like that, so that the other players on the team aren't just having him be just kind of a guy that sits in the corner. And honestly, we know that Ochai in the corner is a weapon because he just knocks it down at an elite rate. But you'd like to see him do just a little bit more because then that versatility in the offense becomes just much better. But anyways, I'm excited about him. 10 fouls. He struggled in the first half, but I'm excited what we're seeing from Ochai Agbaji, because one of the other things we know that the Jazz do that helped their offense last year so much was that they crashed the offensive glass. And one of the things we see from Ochai is just, look at that, 5 rebounds. If he averages 5 rebounds a game, that's amazing. And part of that, look, 2 offensive rebounds for Ochai. So that's actually something to really watch, because that is a thing that the Jazz do on offense, where they are going for offensive rebounds, and it provides more efficiency. It's why the Jazz offense, it's one of the elements of the Jazz offense last season that was so good, is they had great shooting, obviously, but they also just crashed the boards. And if you're getting offensive rebounds and you've guys like Walker Kessler, Ochai Agbaji, bigs that get the offensive rebound and get an easy putback, that takes your offense to another level. And it's just crushing for opposing defenses. You do all the work, and then you just have someone like Ochai Agbaji just soar in, grab an offensive rebound and score it. That's brutal, So that's an element of Ochai Agbaji's game that maybe we should talk about a little more. Look at that. 2 of his 3 rebounds were offensive. They were offensive for the Sixers, I can tell you that. The other guy I just want to talk about, let's just take a moment to talk about Juzang. I'm rooting for this guy. He comes back after injury, so that might be a little bit of why the 3 for 11 from the field, but he did hit 2 for 5 from 3. I don't know what to think about Juzang. I'd like to, you root for all these guys, but this Jazz team has so much depth, and it has filled up so quickly, and we haven't even seen Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh. Juzang has to be better if he wants to make this team. 3 for 11 from the field, got to be better. He does have nice size, and he did have 5 rebounds, so that is nice to see. But 9 points, we'll see. I don't know. I'm rooting for the guy because, I think he has a big body, and the idea of Johnny Juzang is nice. But you know what? You've got to be careful with the idea of a player versus the reality of a player. So, at a certain point, you've just got to say, this is what they are. This is what they do. And I don't think we're quite there yet. This is just the second season for Johnny Juzang. But, man, it would be nice to see him be more consistent with the shooting from the field as well. He kind of can be, to me, he kind of could be a George Niang type player. And, he's definitely shooting that 3 well, and he rebounds, and look at that, 2 assists. So I don't know. I don't know if this is actually that bad of a night when I just look at this stat line. He definitely had a better second half than a first half. You saw the shots going down. All right, let's talk about Keyonte George, who absolutely is kind of blowing me away a little bit. I had a feeling he would be really good because in college, he was, I don't know how many of you were following the draft, but he was like, a lot of guys had him like top 6, top 8 for the first part of the first half of the college season last year. He was easily like a top 6 to top 8 guy, and I personally, I was a little worried about it because we've seen as Jazz fans what it's like to have your best player be kind of a guard that's a little undersized. Although, Donovan Mitchell with Cleveland is looking really nice. He didn't look good in the playoffs, but during the season he was fantastic. The issue with Donovan Mitchell in Utah is he should have been the point guard. When they put him at shooting guard with Mike Conley, the offense was good, but the Jazz had just such an undersized backcourt. Now, that's the thing you got to worry about with Keyonte George. But look at this lineup. You have Keyonte George at the point with Ochai Agbaji at the shooting guard. That completely removes that problem where you have an undersized guy. And Keyonte George is like 6'4" with shoes. So that's actually big enough. One of the interesting things about Donovan Mitchell, if you see him in person and you go close, if you're able ever to go close and you see him, he is so small. He's built and he's strong and he's got, the long wingspan and everything. But Mitchell's small, and I'd like to see Keyonte George up close, see how big he is. Let me know in the comments, for those of you who might have been closer, how big does he look? But as long as he's big enough and he's playing this point guard position, then I think you can be happy with him in the league. And I think he can be a guy that can be a big-time player on a championship squad if he develops. With these types of numbers, look at this. 5 for 10 from the field. And some people were talking about his blocks, and you noticed it. He had like 2 or 3 shots that he had blocked, that if they don't, this is like a crazy number. That's right there. One of the elements that he's going to have to figure out is those blocked shots. But that's just something all rookies do. You're going to have shots blocked. You're going to have things happen in college, like on an NBA floor, that you weren't used to on a college floor. The thing that's exciting about these last 2 games for Keyonte George is how easily he gets to the basket. He is blowing by guys and getting there. And some of that is designed by Will Hardy's offense. He creates an advantage play where it's like you're getting the ball and you're going to the basket as you catch it. Things like that Will Hardy sets up to set these guys up to succeed. And, whoever, I can't remember who it was coaching the Jazz tonight, but it's Will Hardy stuff. And Keyonte George is already doing that stuff. So he's already getting to the basket, and that's one thing this Jazz team needed. And honestly, one of the things that can turn a team into just an incredible offense. One of the reasons why teams struggled against the Nuggets is how many of those teams had a guy that could get to the basket, and challenge Jokic. Not a lot. It was a lot of teams that didn't have that ability. And so if the Jazz have someone like that in Keyonte George who can get to the basket and bend the defense, and then at that point either make the shot or get the assist, that's where things get exciting. Tonight, Keyonte George, 50% from the field, 60% from three knockdown threes. That's 14 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. He had 3 steals last night. He didn't have the same amount tonight. But we're seeing some really promising things from Keyonte George, and it's looking like it's very possible for him to play the point. And I think this is something to really pay attention to as well with Ochai Agbaji. If he can also move the ball with the offense, if he can handle it just a little bit so that the Jazz don't have just one guy bringing the ball up the floor, and that allows other teams to just kind of focus on him. If Ochai can just be another ball handler, then that allows someone like Keyonte George to play the point. And in this Jazz offense, if he can score the ball at the one and all of these guys, so you can just imagine, let's say in a perfect world, Keyonte is just outplays everybody in training camp, and he starts as your point guard, and Ochai Agbaji does the same thing, and you want his length and size and defense on the floor. Keyonte George, Ochai Agbaji, Lauri Markkanen, who did they just get? John Collins and Walker Kessler. That means you have 4 elite shooters on the floor surrounding an elite rolling big man. And then if you have situations where you have Taylor Hendricks come off the bench and you have like Taylor Hendricks, John Collins playing backup center with Lauri Markkanen, and you have a 5-out offense and you have someone like Keyonte George who can get to the rim. You can just see where things are going to go. And it's exciting to think about. His ability to get to the rim is exciting, guys. Honestly, get excited about it because he's already doing this. He was 3 for 5 in this game. And then on Monday, let's see what he ends up. And I don't know if they even had this right, but he was 2 for 4, I believe. On Monday, he goes, let's see. No, that's not accurate. It was 2 for 4. I promise. They are wrong. You are wrong, NBA. He did not do that. It was 2 for 4. I don't care what they say. He is 5 for 9 from 3 in Summer League. And that's as a primary ball handler. So he's getting shots as the primary ball handler. He's knocking down shots from, if he's taking a spot up 3, and he's also hitting his field goal percentage there. So you see 5 for 10, and I believe his first game, I'm going to believe it now just because it supports my narrative, 7 for 16. So 43%, although that should be it should be 50% because this should be a 2, stupid NBA. But anyways, I'm excited. The offense is already there. It's already there, but you add the element of him being able to drive to the basket. That's exciting stuff. And he's going to get better. The kid is 19 years old. He's 19. Yeah, he's 19 years old. And he's shooting 3 for 5 from 3 right away. 5 for 10 from the field. The Jazz got him at 16. At 16. And so you can combine that with Taylor Hendricks, who looks like just an absolute steal at number 9, pretty much. I was a little hoping that Bilal Coulibaly would fall, but Taylor Hendricks was one of those guys that you knew would be good. And the other thing about Keyonte George in the draft is you knew he was going to be a scorer. So the Jazz have things they know they're getting with these rookies. And the next step is, can Keyonte George just become an average and maybe even above average defensive player? He had 3 steals in game 1. Can he start averaging 2 steals a game? And then you have Taylor Hendricks who can knock down the 3. We'll see. I want to see it in Summer League really badly, like really bad. Hopefully soon. But he can also block shots and plays high level defense. And so the future is bright for the Jazz. Really exciting stuff. Just an honorable mention tonight. Micah Potter had a better game one than he did game two, but look at that, 7 rebounds, 1 assist. He only had 2 points. The 3 ball wasn't falling for Potter, but we know he can knock it down at a high clip. The guy who had a monster game for Utah was actually Luka Samanic, especially in the first half, but he goes 3 for 5 from 3. He had a monster game, 3 for 5. And look, Keyonte George, same thing. 7 for 11 from Luka Samanic. He had 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. He just played really well. So it'll be interesting to see. And he has the contract with Utah. We'll see if he gets minutes this year. I think he's going to be mostly on the end of the bench. But you know what? When you're putting up this type of production, if he can knock down threes at a high clip, he's a big body. It's really kind of like at least what I assume, and I guess I hope, is that John Collins is obviously starting power forward, backed up by Taylor Hendricks, and those two will likely play backup center. So a mix of John Collins and Taylor Hendricks playing a 5-out offense. How fun is this season going to be? Guys, this season's going to be a blast. But yeah, you have John Collins and Taylor Hendricks playing kind of a 5-out backup center thing that is going to be just a blast. But then if you need depth, let's say if Hendricks is out or Collins is out, you probably start Hendricks, and then someone like Luka Samanic can step in, and that's a big thing. That's nice because this Jazz team is going to depend a lot on their front court. There's going to be a lot of dependence on Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler is I assume he's going to have a big time year, and the Jazz kind of need him to have a big year because he is the main rim protector. When he goes to the floor, when he goes to the bench, this Jazz team, you can just kind of see they're going to be a little bit they will have times where they're going to be a little bit vulnerable with the rim protection unless Taylor Hendricks is amazing. That's what's going to be fun to watch, is how good is Taylor Hendricks as a rim protector. We know he's a great weak side shot blocker. So if the ball's on the right side and someone's trying to go at Walker Kessler or something like that, we know that Taylor Hendricks can come from the weak side and support and block shots and things. But how good is he as a rebounder? Can he be that main rim protector against second units? And obviously it's second units, so maybe he'll be fine. It's not like he's going up against Jokic. He's going to be going up against backups, So that's going to be really fun to watch, really interesting. I honestly can't wait. And it's just a bummer that he's injured right now. We can't see him in Salt Lake City Summer League. Maybe we'll see him tomorrow. I hope we at least get to see him in Las Vegas Summer League. All of you cross your fingers that we get to watch Taylor Hendricks in Las Vegas, okay? All of you. And, Keyonte George, I guess we should mention, he did leave the game near the end with a left foot injury. He came back in and they pulled him out. So it makes me think that it might have been some sort of just precautionary, but we shall see. Guys, I think that's all I got tonight. That was fun to watch. I'm excited to watch more Keyonte George. He's, it's going to be fun to just watch this Jazz team, and I honestly can't wait to see what's next. I want to see Taylor Hendricks. I want to see Bryce Sensabaugh. We haven't even seen Bryce Sensabaugh. What if he's incredible? The Jazz felt like he should have gone at least 18, and the Jazz got him at 28. So that's going to be fun to watch. And one thing about Bryce Sensabaugh, too, we'll just mention it. He is a lights-out three-point shooter. I know everyone talks about kind of his ability to create the shot, and I can't remember who it was. Sorry. Kind of mentioned that he's kind of like a DeMar DeRozan type player, which if he's DeMar DeRozan, that's pretty incredible for Utah at 28. Are you kidding? But what's incredible about him is his, when if he's sitting in the corner at the 3-point line and you pass him the ball, he is an elite catch and shoot 3-point shooter, Bryce Sensabaugh. So that's one thing that I would love to see too, is just Bryce Sensabaugh with that second unit. This Jazz team is so loaded with depth, so much depth. And so that is this season is going to be a blast, guys. It's just going to be, every single night is going to be interesting. Who's playing? What are the rotations? How many minutes is Hendricks getting? How many did Sensabaugh get in the game? What is Keyonte George doing? How many minutes did he get? Are we going to see Keyonte George start at some point? You know what I mean? Probably not to start the year, obviously, but my goodness, if he can kind of figure things out and he can start getting a little more polished with his game and what he does, because right now that's looking like, when you look in the dirt and you see you pull out this rock and then there's like this little bright thing inside, and you're like, oh my gosh, is there a gem inside this geode? And you crack it open and poof, sparkly. The metaphor changed. But anyways, it's very clear we got a geode on our hands. We just got to crack that hard shell and pull out that sparkly, beautiful geode. And that's Keyonte George, okay? All right, guys, if you're new here, like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. Let's give a shout out to Christian House Money to Haas, Baby Elliott Matson, Ezekiel Raicibe, the man from down under. See ya, Alexa later. Built Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga Mimio de Abajo, Jordan the Goat Best Roll, TGD Total Game Domination, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, X marks the spot for Zintas, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Patrick Kubo, the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Like I said, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you tomorrow.